Well, a sinking feeling for investors as the local market headed south. I spoke to Martin Lakos earlier about a bad day on the bourse. Well, Martin Lakos, lots of red today and all coming our way from offshore. But to what extent did those GDP numbers impact?
Well, that read of 0.4% didn't help, Ticky, but the lead from Europe was pretty woeful, with the German market down over 3%, the UK market down just under 2%, and of course the US continued to follow on. To give you an extent of the rally we've seen, however, so no surprise markets are going to sort of have a bit of a consolidation and maybe a bit of profit-taking. The Dow Jones has had 45 consecutive days of trading where we haven't seen a 100-point fall or more. And that record hasn't been broken since 2006. So it's about time markets took a bit of a rest. The 7.5% growth target out of China, along with what's happening in Greece this week, is probably enough elements to get traders a little bit nervous.
So now that the market is having a bit of a rest, what's a beleaguered investor supposed to do?
Well, look, our recent strategy piece really continues to stick to a barbell theme for portfolios. It is heavily weighted on one side to defensives and high-yield stocks such as Telstra and Coca-Cola, and yet not missing out on the potential of the growth recovery. Well, there's absolutely no doubt that growth is recovering, particularly in the US or led by the US, and so to have exposure to the energy and the mining sectors is also key. We've actually recently upgraded our outlook on energy and gone a little bit more neutral on mining following this reporting season, as earnings growth seems to be slowing a bit out of stocks like BHP. The best performing sectors out of this reporting season, without a doubt, was mining services and energy, growing at about 20%. It was interesting today's trade, Ticky, also that we closed on our lows and it was exacerbated by a $200 million sell portfolio that came into the market in the last hour of trading.
One stock I want to ask you about, it seems like an eternity, but it looks as though Telstra has now actually done the deal with NBN Co.
Yes, it does. Look, they've announced that the definitive agreement between the government and NBN Co has now been made. There's probably no surprise that that is the case. Obviously, the ACCC has gone through all the processes as well. So now the cash flows start to flow to Telstra in a whole range of forms of the agreement, starting with about $250 million coming through before the end of this year. The stock closed down 2 cents at $3.23.
Martin Lakos, thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks, Ticky. Always a pleasure.
And to the other major movers on the local share market, the miners were hit hard. Rio Tinto has now lost 7.5% since the start of the month. Fortescue's falls was compounded by the stock going ex-dividend today. Newcrest fell along with the gold price. Among the select few risers, Amcor, investors liking the sound of a perio packaging business it's added to its portfolio. Turning to currency markets, and the dollar has recovered a little ground after a big fall overnight. And in commodities in New York, oil is down on news Iran is open to talks on its nuclear program. Gold remains in the doldrums.